Near a remote village in 1184 France, a priest and two men bury a woman as a group of crusaders led by Baron Godfrey of Ibelin pass by. The priest takes the woman's cross necklace and orders her beheaded, a customary punishment for those who die by suicide. The crusaders arrive in the village, where a blacksmith named Balian is grieving his wife's recent suicide following the death of their baby. Godfrey introduces himself to Balian as his father and reveals he is the Baron of Ibelin. Overhearing their conversation, the priest watches closely as Godfrey invites Balian to join him on a journey to Jerusalem. Balian declines and the crusaders leave. That night, the priest tries to persuade Balian to go to Jerusalem, confessing that he ordered Balian's wife beheaded before her burial. Balian notices the priest wearing his wife's cross, and, in a fit of rage, kills him. Retrieving the crucifix, Balian flees the village to pursue his father, seeking redemption for himself and his wife in Jerusalem. Balian catches up with Godfrey and his men. As they rest at camp, Godfrey tests Balian's swordsmanship, offering him combat advice, including using a high guard and employing all parts of the sword effectively. A group of soldiers sent by the Lord Bishop arrives, claiming they are there to arrest Balian for killing the priest. Godfrey refuses to hand Balian over, and the soldiers appear to leave, but later launch a surprise attack. Godfrey and his men overpower the attackers, but Godfrey is struck by an arrow that breaks off inside him, and two of his men are killed. The group continues their journey and stops to rest at a pilgrim camp along the road to Messina. Godfrey asks Balian to assist the king of Jerusalem in maintaining peace between Christians and Muslims. While Balian is eating, he is confronted and insulted by Lord Guy the Lusignan, an anti-Muslim noble and the future king of Jerusalem. In Messina, Godfrey knights Balian, gives him his sword, and names him the new Baron of Ibelin. He instructs Balian to serve the king of Jerusalem, protect the defenseless, and always speak the truth, even if it leads to death. Shortly after, Godfrey succumbs to his injuries. On Balian's journey to Jerusalem, his ship is wrecked in a storm, leaving only him and a horse as survivors. When Balian frees the horse from the wreckage, it panics and runs off. Chasing after it, Balian encounters a Muslim cavalier and his servant. A fight breaks out over the horse, and Balian reluctantly kills the cavalier in self-defense, but spares the servant Imad, asking for his guidance to Jerusalem. Upon arriving in Jerusalem, Balian gives the horse to Imad and sets him free. Din reveals that the knight Balian killed was an important figure among the Saracens, and Balian's honorable act of sparing Din will earn him respect and fame among them. Balian visits the site where Christ was crucified, seeking forgiveness for his and his wife's sins, but receives no sign. He leaves his wife's cross beneath the rocks and wanders the city. A group of men follows him, recognizing his father's sword and acknowledging him as their new lord. Princess Sibylla arrives at Balian's residence, inquiring about its master, but Balian claims there is none. After requesting water, she abruptly departs. Later, Balian is summoned to the Marshal of Jerusalem's office, where he witnesses several Templars being hanged for killing Muslims. He meets Tiberius, the Marshal of Jerusalem, who informs him of his growing reputation as the man who killed a great Syrian lord over a horse. Tiberius, loyal to the king, works to counter Guy's ambitions of war between Christians and Muslims. Balian dines with other nobles, including Guy and his wife, Princess Sibylla. Surprised by Balian's presence, he leaves in anger. Sibylla then takes Balian to meet her brother, masked leper king Baldwin IV. The king orders Balian to take charge of Ibelin, protect the defenseless, and safeguard the pilgrim roads. Baldwin adds that one day, if the king himself is helpless, Balian may be called upon to protect him. Balian arrives in Ibelin, where he rules over 1,000 acres and 100 families composed of Christians, Jews, and Muslims, but the land lacks water. He dedicates himself to improving his barony by digging wells to provide water, which he uses for irrigation to support agriculture. Princess Sibylla develops an affection for Balian and visits him at Ibelin. Their relationship deepens, and they eventually become intimate. Meanwhile, Guy the Lusignan and his ally, Reynold of Chatillon, attack and massacre a Muslim trade caravan with the support of the Templars. Guy, aiming to claim the throne after King Baldwin's death, seeks to provoke a war that will eliminate the Muslims and secure the kingdom for the Christians. In response, Salahuddin, the leader of the Muslim forces, crosses the Jordan River with 200,000 men. King Baldwin orders the army to prepare for war. Salahuddin advances on Kerak, Reynold's fortress, to punish him for his actions. Balian defends the villagers fleeing to the castle from Salahuddin's cavalry. Despite being outnumbered, Balian and his knights launch a charge against Salahuddin's forces, buying enough time for the villagers to escape. A fierce but one-sided battle ensues, during which Balian and his knights are captured. In the enemy camp, Balian is surprised to encounter Imad ad-Din, the servant he once freed, who reveals himself to be Salahuddin's chancellor. Balian also learns that the man he killed was actually Din's servant. Salahuddin arrives with his army to lay siege to Kerak, but King Baldwin IV intervenes with his forces. The two leaders negotiate a truce, resulting in a Muslim retreat, and Baldwin vows to punish Reynold for his crimes. Baldwin publicly confronts Reynold, forcing him to kneel before the gathered crowd. As Reynold pleads for mercy, Baldwin slaps him several times and humiliates him by making him kiss his leprous hand. Reynold is then arrested and condemned. The strain of these events causes Baldwin to collapse, his health deteriorating beyond recovery. Before his condition worsens, Baldwin urges Balian to continue serving the kingdom with the same integrity. Meanwhile, Salahuddin reassures his son that he will reclaim Jerusalem, but only when the time is right and victory is certain. In Jerusalem, King Baldwin offers Balian the opportunity to marry Sibylla, but Balian declines as the marriage would require the execution of Guy, an act that goes against his beliefs and faith. After Baldwin's death, Sibylla becomes queen and crowns her husband, Guy the Lusignan, as the new king of Jerusalem. Guy, viewing Balian as a threat due to his strong opposition to war, sends 3 Templars to assassinate him. Balian, however, survives the attempt and skillfully defeats the attackers. Seeking to provoke conflict, Guy releases Reynold of Chatillon, instructing him to ignite a war. Reynold complies by brutally murdering Salahuddin's sister and her entourage. When Salahuddin's emissary relays demand for the return of his sister's body, the heads of those responsible, and the surrender of Jerusalem, Guy decapitates the emissary and sends his head back to Damascus. In a council meeting, war is declared under the justification of God wills it, despite sound advice against it. The Crusader army marches into the desert to confront Salahuddin, leaving Jerusalem defenseless except for Balian, Tiberius, a few knights, some remaining Crusader soldiers, and the townspeople. Salahuddin's forces decisively defeat the Crusader army, annihilating them in battle. Guy and Reynold are captured. Salahuddin executes Reynold but spares Guy, humiliating him by stripping him naked and placing him on a donkey as a show of mercy rooted in tradition. Salahuddin then advances toward Jerusalem. Tiberius and his men depart for Cyprus, convinced that Jerusalem is doomed, but Balian and his knights choose to stay and defend the city for the sake of the people. The Lord Bishop tries to convince Balian to abandon the citizens, but Balian ignores him. Instead, Balian delivers an inspiring speech, declaring that they defend the city not for its stones, but for the people within its walls, earning the respect and loyalty of those around him. Balian knights the peasants and servants, instilling in them the values of protecting the helpless and speaking the truth, even if it leads to death. This newfound purpose transforms them into better fighters. Although they know they cannot defeat Salahuddin's forces, they aim to hold them off long enough to negotiate terms. After 3 days of intense battle, Salahuddin offers a deal. Balian surrenders Jerusalem in exchange for the safe passage of all its inhabitants to Christian lands. As the citizens march to safety, Balian encounters Sibylla, who has renounced her claim to the throne. Returning to his village in France, Balian resumes his life as a blacksmith. English knights arrive, seeking Balian, the defender of Jerusalem, but he insists he is only a blacksmith. The leader of the knights reveals himself as King Richard I of England, and announces his intention to launch a new crusade. Balian declines, and Richard rides off. Balian is joined by Sibylla, and as they pass his late wife's grave, they ride off together, ready to begin a new life. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.